Hey everyone, it's John here from Hot Take Hockey. This is the Jets vs. Oilers series preview. As I make this video, the game is tonight. Unfortunately for the Winnipeg Jets, no Nikolai Ehlers, no Pierre-Luc Dubois. We're going to see how that changes going forward in the series. Jets are going to have a tough time tonight. I have a lot of different opinions. I look at the Edmonton Oilers, and as just a fan, and I think for Oilers fans, I think I want to have faith there because I think Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, they're going to be at the top of their game. Connor McDavid, obviously best season of his career. Just a stupid, insane season. Over 100 points in 56-game season, right? Mike Smith, you could argue top 10. You could even make an argument for top 5, top 7 for Vezina. And you look at other guys, Nugent Hopkins, you're hoping that Yamamoto can step up. Puljujarvi, Cahoon's been great in the top 6 when in a good situation. And then down the depth, you're hoping that veterans and even a guy like Ryan McLeod coming in as a young guy, it's going to be a change that is not what we've seen in the past with the others, especially this season, the lack of depth. And the defense has been a lot better this year. Nurse, again, that's another guy that's in the top 10 for Norris. Barry, offensive year. Larson's playing great. So you have a better defense too for the Oilers. And for my mindset, it's just a matter of best case scenario for your top 2 players, best case scenario for your secondary scorers, and best case scenario for your goaltender. And if the defense can be decent, the Oilers have a good chance of coming out of the series. But on the other side, the Jets, while they have 2 of their main guys missing in Dubois and Ehlers, you could argue was the most important forward consistently for the Jets. They have other pieces. They have Scheifele, who's looking to step up and healthy, hopefully. They're hoping that Scheifele can be healthy in the series. Wheeler hopefully can step up. That experience there. You're hoping for a big series from Kyle Connor, Kopp, and Lowry to continue what they've been doing during the season. And then you're kind of looking at the defense and you're hoping that Forbort and that's physicality in the playoffs, and then Morrissey and Pionk hopefully will carry you on that back end. And then the goaltender. I think that's the big part of this series. If Hellebuyck can be Hellebuyck the way that we've seen him play, that Vezina quality goaltender, that top-notch goalie, he has a chance to steal this series here. So I'm looking at both sides. I'm going to bring on Jeff with Sports with Warbs. We had a chat, and we're going to break down the series a little bit more. Please subscribe if you're new. Smash the like button. Let me know your thoughts on the series in the comment section. Hope I'll see you guys throughout the streams. Jets, Oilers, Jeff, Sports with Warbs. How's this series going to go down? Hey everyone, I'm here with Jeff from Sports with Warbs, big Oilers fan, and we're previewing the Oilers versus Jets matchup. Jeff, when you saw this matchup, how do you feel? What do you kind of are looking for in terms of Edmonton versus Winnipeg? Obviously, we can look at the obvious, McDavid and Draisaitl, but I guess past that, what are you expecting in this series?
My first initial thoughts was I was happy we played the Jets. I mean, no fault to the Jets. At one point in the season, like I was very scared of them when we were kind of like when they were ahead of us in the standings. I was very scared of the Jets, and they're a good team for sure. But I mean, matching up just team wise, I think we match up against the Jets better. Obviously, we're an extremely offensive team, so playing against tough defensive tems like the Habs or guys that sit back a little more doesn't really fit our style in terms of being able to use what we have, which is offense. So I was excited about this. I think it'll be an offensive series. It obviously is going to get a little bit less of the media attention. You got Leafs, Habs, obviously I'm watching that. You've got, even in the States, man, you've got the Florida teams playing each other. You've got a lot of good matchups. So it's going to be good. I'm excited about it. How we match up. Yeah. Like I said, I think it's going to be high octane play pretty much. I was excited. There's a couple players I have on each side. I think will kind of be the difference makers, some key players. But yeah, every game it's been a high impact. One of those wins came on a last second goal by Draisaitl at the start of the year. Another one came when Hellebuyck was like not playing like Hellebuyck, so you kind of have to take that into account. So maybe a little more even than the standing show, but that's kind of how I'm feeling. Feeling good, exciting. Me and you, obviously, we're gonna live for it, but the historians say the Oilers always had to go through the Jets to get to the Cup, just like the Leafs haven't won since '67, the last time they beat the Habs in the playoffs. So kind of in the same boat there, but yeah.
I think for the Oilers, in my perspective here, at the very least, Mike Smith has to do what he's been doing this season, or like we see those big goalies in the playoffs, like Connor Hellebuyck, the way he's played over the last few years. Obviously, there's outlier games, but I do think the goaltending will be a huge aspect here because I look at the defense and it's like both defenses are not like sexy on paper, you know? Like I think both defenses have had guys that are maybe not like great defensemen step up this year. Like I look at Winnipeg, like Morrissey and Pionk have had great years. I look at Edmonton, like Nurse has had a good year. You could say offensively, Barry's had a good year. And then like obviously I think even guys like Larson have had a decent year, right?
It's been his best year as an Oiler.
Yeah. So that's where I look at, okay, you know what? I don't think there's a huge advantage here defensively. And then obviously the offense, I think they're like style and like obviously depth wise, like Winnipeg's got the advantage, but is there anyone on Winnipeg that's even touching the level of McDavid and Draisaitl? I mean, I think Jets fans have kind of made the statement like Ehlers and Connor, the two guys that are the most consistent for them, not the two big names of Scheifele and Wheeler. So that's my perspective. So I guess for you, looking at all of that, what I just said, and then obviously down the lineup, are you confident in kind of like checking those boxes for Edmonton? Like, do you think Winnipeg can turn on that switch? Like, because obviously they've gone through a rough patch here.
Yeah. So I kind of picked 3 key players out for each team, like you requested, and obviously, I guess we'll just start out on the back end. For each 3 key players, I have the goalies. Obviously, Smith. He has had a great year. There's no denying it. I mean, this has been his best year since his Vezina year, or his Vezina nominated year way back in the day. And he's looked good out there. He's looked calm. He's looked like he's really coming to the leader role. This looks like a guy who's pissed about his Chicago performance, and he should be, man. He crapped the bed for us in that the start of the Chicago series. It really hurt us the rest of the time. We lost our confidence. He came in this year. He was the goalie they signed when they missed out on Markstrom, so he's definitely got a chip on his shoulder, as if Mike Smith could have a bigger chip on his shoulder. He came in, he played good. So obviously if Smith can keep up that play, I'm going to be happy. And I think we can actually match up decent. I mean, he's played good, man. Like we're going to get into it later, but he has, he's definitely got his haters and stuff, but I even read an Athletic article yesterday or something like that. It was Ray Whitney. So he was the captain of that Phoenix team that made it super far when Smith basically dragged them. And he was saying, man, he can win games. He can steal games. He's the type of goalie who can blow you the game in the first 5 shots, or the goalie who can steal you the games. Not all guys are like that. So him matching up against Hellebuck, I'll get into him. I saw him play a couple games ago, obviously when the Oilers were playing. This was in the middle of their giant losing skid. And it wasn't good. He looked kind of out of it. He didn't look like the normal Hellebuck I know. But the thing with goalies is they're so weird it can flip like that. So I expect the Vezina quality Hellebuck coming into this series. Obviously, Smith will have trouble matching up against that. But I think as long as he can kind of meet him halfway, then I think it's a good chance, because we can get into it further. I didn't have any defense, to your point, on my 3 key players. There's guys on the Oilers who have done good. There's guys on the Jets who have done good, like Pionk. I love Pionk. He's a great defenseman, and he's so noticeable during the games, I find, for the Jets on D. But the forwards I had was actually Ehlers and Dubois for the Jets key players. Like you said, dude, they kind of I think Connor and Wheeler are going to do good regardless, but those are the kind of guys that kind of can switch the series for them as 2 offensive guys.
So we filmed that a week ago, and there you go, Jeff right there saying Dubois and Ehlers. And I wonder if that is going to be super costly early on here for the Jets. No Dubois, no Ehlers. If they fall behind and the Oilers get the confidence, it's going to be super costly in terms of not making your way back in the series. If they can make their way back for game 2 and only down by 1, then you have the chance to make it back. But this is going to be a huge concern for the Winnipeg Jets. No Ehlers, no Dubois. These were 2 guys that, even for myself, I felt the Dubois matchup against McDavid. And you look at Nikolai Ehlers, who has arguably been the best, most consistent forward for the Jets.
Ehlers has been out. I want to just get into this quick. I am a Mooseheads fan. I had season tickets when he played for the Mooseheads, Ehlers, in 2014. I've watched lots of Ehlers games. I love him. I think he's great. I was pumped when he went to Winnipeg, and it's really looked like he's found his form there. I think he's got 24. He had like 24 goals, 25 assists. He's
lighting it up this year.
Yeah. He was looking like one of their best guys. Like I was seeing posts on Reddit about how good he was. Like all this stuff is great. So I think if Ehlers can come back and play the way he was, I'm going to be scared of that for sure. Because that kind of just solidifies their top 2 a little more. Obviously, you're not going to have Kopp and Perreault. You'll have Ehlers fit in there somewhere. And then Dubois. So, obviously this year's been weird for the Jets. They started out with that. I think the season started out for them with the Line A game winner and then he got traded for Dubois, and obviously COVID, Dubois didn't play much, and then everything happens. So I think if he can go into his form, dude, he was pretty nasty on the Columbus when they were making those runs and when they beat Tampa. Like he definitely has it.
Man, Columbus fans talked about it. He was a guy that was like super inconsistent throughout the year, but then kind of turned on that switch in the playoffs because he's a bigger body, right? So he can kind of rough it up a little bit, get into the corners. I know he's a little chippy at times, and obviously he's got a really good shot too. So
yeah, and that's what part of the thing, didn't they? They wanted center depth in Winnipeg. That's why they traded Laine for center. And I mean, this is a guy who went one pick after him. I think he's going to be these two guys are going to be X factor. Like if Hellebuyck, Ehlers, and Dubois can all come in and play like at their top potential along with the other guys, then it's going to be a really close series. If they come in and they're kind of lagging behind and they're playing like they're injured and they're playing like they got traded this year, then I think the Oilers obviously do have the advantage. The other two guys I have for the Oilers key players are just McDavid and Draisaitl. It's the boring answer, but just the first series, that's what I'm saying. Maybe if we're doing this again for another series, I might pick different, but these guys need to prove themselves as guys that can win and make runs. I'm not exactly expecting a cup win this year, but I'm expecting more than what we've seen. I'm expecting at least a 2017 effort performance where you get a series win, you push the second one to game 7. I mean, and we show some grit and we have some great moments. So I think this is huge for them. Obviously, McDavid has taken his level to his game to the next level this year. I'm not worried about him producing. I think he's the best he's ever looked, and I've watched pretty much every McDavid game I've ever seen.
McDavid and Draisaitl are going to go off a little bit.
Yeah, Draisaitl has the problem a little bit where things aren't going his way, or maybe he's not touching the puck as much. He won't put in 1,000% effort, but this year has been better than last year for that fact. If he gets the chance to play with McDavid, which I think he should, if we're just talking lines, then I think he'll be fine, and I think they're going to light it up. So I hope Tippett goes that option. But that's kind of just my Draisaitl. Dude, I would, because
isn't that a problem in terms of like what you just said, like the center depth, like to Scheifele, Dubois, and Lowry? Doesn't that become even a bigger problem to match up?
It does, but only if Nugent Hopkins is playing like he was at the start of the year, not like he was the second time they paired him up. Like this whole 100% push or 100-point push, they basically put Draisaitl with McDavid so he could get it. We've been locked in for weeks into our spot pretty much. So they've just been doing that, and they've been trying out lower combinations. So a huge thing that helped is that Ryan McLeod, I know you obviously you know him. He came in and was able to fill that third line skating role and he can have Neil and Chiasson on his wings, bigger guys, and that lets the second line be Nuge as the center, who's obviously proven himself. Not his greatest year at center, but he doesn't play great on McDavid's wing, so. I'd rather him at center and Draisaitl up. And then you've got Yamamoto, who can play that second line. Puljujarvi will stay first line with McDavid. And then you've got Cahoon, who could kind of mix it in and out, and then have Draisaitl, McDavid, Puljujarvi. So I don't know. I think that's the best option. That's what I like, just because of the sole fact McLeod was able to come in and provide a skating guy on those bottom 6. Like before, it was the clunkiest bottom 6 you'd ever see. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like you got guys like Jujar, Kahara who can play that clunky game, but you kind of need a speed center who can carry the puck if you're going to have guys like Neil and Chiasson on your wings. So,
yeah,
I don't know, man.
I guess overall then, looking at everything and what you kind of just talked about, how do you see this series going down? Because for me personally, and I'll just say it as we're recording this, like I haven't decided on this series. Like,
well, obviously Oilers finished with a better record, a better end of the season. What does Winnipeg need to do you think to take over the Oilers in terms of skill for 4 straight games and beat them?
Well, here's the thing, man. It's tough. I guess this is kind of spoiling anyway, so I don't really care. But it's just like the evaluation part for me is like, okay, obviously recency bias is like people are going to look at it. And like for me, I hate looking at recency bias, but when you're talking about leading into the playoffs, like that's obviously important. I think if you look at history, and obviously take that with a grain of salt, but teams that are hot going into the playoffs tend to do well or tend to really start heating it up and win a few rounds. So my problem with it is I actually think Winnipeg matches up in a playoff series really well against Edmonton, but the version of Winnipeg I've seen recently doesn't allow me to confidently pick them over Edmonton, because I'm like, okay, this Edmonton I've watched versus that Winnipeg I've watched recently, if I'm going based on that, I'm taking Edmonton. I'm not even questioning it. But based on what I see in matchup game, get Lowry, get a shutdown line going, and you have 2 top lines for Winnipeg that you can kind of cycle back and forth. And then obviously it just comes down to goaltending. And for me, I think for a majority of people, if you had to make a bet, if you're forced to make a bet, I'm pretty sure you're picking Hellebuyck over Mike Smith. So again, take that with a grain of salt because Mike Smith has had a great year, but Hellebuyck is just, he has the bigger ceiling and he's shown. That's kind of what it boils down to. What version of Winnipeg are we getting? That's literally like what it boils down to, because I think regardless, the drivers of this team for Edmonton are McDavid, Draisaitl, and then a few other pieces that have been able to support that. But at the end of the day, Winnipeg, I think, has the higher ceiling, but it's just like, are they going to reach that ceiling? And if they don't, I think Edmonton takes this series.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't take recency bias into it, let's look at the 8-game series this year, man. It was 6-2. We were still winning games when they were playing their best. Like, you know, we still matched up well. Like the Leafs, there was one point in the season where Winnipeg played against the Leafs and they played you guys really hard. I don't really know what the outcomes of the games were. And then we played you right after. We played Winnipeg right after, and that's where the point where I said I was kind of scared of them, and we played them well. That's when they were playing at their best, and they still had Ehlers. So I don't know, man. It's just about how these lines are going to come together. But I can definitely see it going both ways. Like you said, Smith, all we can do is look at his body of work this year. He's looked great, but he's not a Vezina goalie like Hellebuyck. So you're going to give him the edge. Defense, I'm taking Nurse over any guys on Winnipeg, but that's just one player.
Yeah.
And then the
This
forwards,
year,
like you said,
Nurse,
yes, this year, you know, like he's evolved, he's gotten better. Like that's how it works. Like sometimes it takes defense longer. He's gotten better, and I don't think he's going to slow down by the looks of it. Like it hasn't had a fluke couple of games. He's had a great season. So I don't know. We'll see. I can definitely see it going both ways. But I don't know.
How do you see it going down? I guess
I think it goes. I think either the Oilers win in 6 or the Jets win in 7. So I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be 4-2.
Oilers in 6.
Yes, I am. I think I'm feeling like they could do the 4-2. I think the Jets will get at least 2 wins. I'm thinking. So that's why I'm saying.
So you're saying Edmonton finishes the series in Winnipeg.
Yeah, and I'm saying if the Jets manage to get 3 wins on us, I think something's gonna have to go wrong. I don't want to say wrong, but something's gonna have to go sideways with the goaltending or the forwards or how everything's stacking up, and they just have beaten us. That's how I think they get 3 wins. And if they can get to 3 wins, I think they can get to 4. But if we can keep them for 2 wins, I think we'll be able to pull it in 6. So yeah.
So you're saying if it goes to 7, you're like pretty worried Winnipeg wins that series.
I think that's how they're gonna win. If they're gonna win, I think it'd be in a game 7. I don't think they beat them before that. Because like I said, I think if they get 3, they can get 4. I think if they get 1 or 2, I think we can get 4.
And
the Oilers have not proven anything. Like this isn't a very deep team, and if we could find a way to shut down a couple of the Oilers' top guys, like there's like you should not count out the Jets. I mean, it's just insane to see how much crap the Jets are taking right now. It's just a bunch of baloney to me.